Coming up next.
You know what my kids started to call Sunday?
Mm.
Fun Mommy Day.
Oh. Oh.
I just became a happier, kinder, more at peace, more joyful human being. And it's not about rules. Well, do you do this? Do you do that? It's not about that. It's just about resting. Whether
Mm.
you can do a couple hours, but it will spill into the rest of your week in the absolute best way possible.
Welcome to Faith Over Addiction podcast, where the chains of fixing and striving are broken and joy is rediscovered in Christ. You are here because you know there's more for you, a life beyond addiction's chaos, rooted in God's peace and promises. This is the place where Christian women like you learn to release the weight of fixing and striving and instead lean into God's strength to create a home filled with love, grace, and hope. She is clothed with strength and dignity. Proverbs 31:25. That's you. You may not feel like it yet, but you are stronger than you know. And God has so much more for you than carrying someone else's addiction. Here, we'll uncover how to set healthy boundaries with love and a little humor. Find resilience and grace in the messy moments of life. Celebrate small victories and embrace joy like never before. Lean into God's promises for restoration and strength because He's not done with your story or your loved ones. This is your invitation to rise up, embrace your worth in God's kingdom, and take back what's been stolen by addiction, your peace, your joy, your future. Your faith is the foundation and your boundaries are the bridge, and God's truth is your guide. I'm Tanya Gioia, your host and fellow traveler on this journey through the chaos of addiction. I'm here to cheer you on, equip you with tools that work, and share the truth that's changed my life. The joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8:10. Together, we'll uncover how to create safe, loving space for healing, starting with your own heart and home. By setting boundaries, trusting God's plan, and embracing His truth, you can reclaim your joy, your peace, and your family's future. Then you will be able to stand firm for your family and legacy as a kingdom daughter, a woman who can laugh at the days to come, knowing her identity is secure in Christ. So grab a cup of coffee or tea and get comfortable. Let's walk this journey together. We're about to take back what's been stolen, create a safe, healing space for you and your family, and rediscover the joy God has waiting for you.
Welcome to Faith Over Addiction podcast. I'm Tanya Gioia, your host, and I am here with Kelly from Walk Like Warriors. And this is a fun episode for me because I not only do this, but I also coach entrepreneurs. And I am always looking to learn more about how people start businesses, what they do with their business. And this is exactly what Kelly has been doing. So stay tuned. If you are a woman who is in that place where you're like, working from home would really help me, or starting my own business would really help me, this is the episode for you. So, Kelly, why don't you share a little bit about your journey and especially how your faith walk factored into that journey?
Thank you so much for having me. I am excited to be here, and I have always loved entrepreneurs, business ownership. I think it's what helps our country go. I have moved all over as an adult, so I had lots of different jobs from being a newborn photographer to a project manager, event manager, and I eventually got certified as a director of operations. And that's what I was doing. I really didn't have intention to start a business coaching business. Walk Like Warriors actually started as a faith-based page. And so my name, Kelly, means warrior woman. I love helping women feel equipped. So Ephesians 6:10 through 6:20 are the verses that inspired that. And so it's that we are to put on the full armor of God, that we are in battle, we are waging war every single day. We're just not always aware of it. And so it really drew its inspiration from that. It just I wasn't showing up anywhere online. So maybe like some of your listeners, I just kind of got that bug to just start having something that felt like it was purpose driven. And I had a little bit of a crisis of identity because a couple months in, the things that people were interested in were time management, systems, and business ownership. So that was a part of my feed, but it wasn't necessarily the strategy. I think I was trying to make it just all a faith-based page. So I talked to my husband and I said, I don't know what to do. I feel like there's this temptation to monetize this page. And I really wanted it to be more of like a ministry page, helping women in their marriages and their families. And yes, running a business too, because I love business ownership, whether it's a little tiny side hustle or network marketing or a great big business. I just love it. I love the freedom it gives, time freedom, money freedom. I think that all women can really benefit from that. And my husband, very wise, just said to me, why don't you go all in on the business stuff? Why
Mm.
don't you stop fighting it just for 3 months and see what God's going to do? And then at the end of the 3 months, go and make it all faith-based. I mean, obviously, as a Christian, your faith makes its way into everything you do anyway. Like we are supposed to be salt and light, so that should be coming through no matter what. But followed his advice, started with the business, and it exploded, blew everything out of the water. God made it so clear that that was his intention for that page from the beginning. And so I had people in my DMs asking if I would coach them. The first few I said, no, I'm a director of ops. I don't really coach female solopreneurs. I work with small business owners, but that's not small, teams of between 5 and 20. And the Lord had different plans. And so January 2024, we opened our doors. And I would say for the woman who wakes up feeling like she's playing dodgeball with her to-do list, she crosses 3 things off that to-do list and adds 9 more. It just goes to bed every night feeling like I was busy all day,
Mm.
but I cannot remember what I was so busy doing. We exist to help that woman really move through her day, her week, her business, her family, her personal life with focus and intention.
Wow. Wow. Where were you 20 years ago? So so I didn't really know what a director of ops was until the last 10 years or so. Talk us through that because when I think about the home, I think I've been a director of ops for a long time.
hmm
So
hmm
what does that exactly mean?
I started as a virtual assistant before virtual assistants were a thing. We're talking 2004, and all my
Hmm.
friends were saying, "You're so lucky you get to work from home." Now, in the post-COVID era, a lot of people do this, so it's not weird or unusual. All my friends thought I was the luckiest girl in the world, and there's so much overlap between a woman who's running her home and being her home's manager and owner and operator, and what a virtual assistant does, what a good project manager does. It's just varying levels of responsibility. And director of ops is typically, it's like a miniature COO. So large companies have a COO, a chief operating officer, and a director of ops is typically just a step down from that, like smaller companies. It usually involves managing people who will listen to you, though. So it's very different than running a home because, sometimes your kids or your family members don't always want to obey the director of ops. They want to do their own thing. But there are a lot of similarities because and that's where I think great virtual assistants really fall into this category too. And I think women really shine in this type of role because what we do is very integrated. So we see connections between this thing over here, this can make this thing over here go wrong. And while we're doing that, so I always make a joke. I don't know if you've heard, I wish I came up with this. I didn't. It's from a psychologist, but men are waffles and women are spaghetti. Have you ever heard that before?
No,
It's
roll that
so
out for us. That's
interesting.
great.
Okay, because I love psychology, so that'll feed its way into our talk today. But essentially, men are waffles and women are spaghetti. So men's brains are more like waffles. Everything is categorized. It's like in its
Mm.
own little bucket. So if your husband is paying taxes, he's paying tax like he's working on his taxes. He's got the little calculator on his phone. He's got the pen in hand. He's focused. He's locked in. He doesn't hear anything else, see anything else, know anything else. That's what he's doing. When a woman is working on her taxes, the doorbell's ringing, the neighbor's dog across the street is bugging her. She remembers she forgot her mom's birthday. She needs to send flowers. The birthday is tomorrow. The school's calling. I forgot to send that permission slip. Oh my goodness, I never placed that Walmart grocery order. It's still sitting in
Hmm.
my cart.
Hmm.
Oh, where's that Amazon package? Like when it's spaghetti. So everything in our brains tends to be really integrated, a little bit tangled up, like cooked spaghetti. Men, it's more bucketed or segmented. And so that's why when a woman yells at her husband, "Don't you hear the baby crying?" And he's like, "No," he actually doesn't. And
Mm-mm.
so when it comes to running a home or it comes to running a business, sometimes men have the advantage with their waffle brain, and sometimes women have the advantage with their spaghetti brain. So it's a matter of, and that's really what my company exists to do, is to help women
Hmm.
untangle the spaghetti, use that part of us that God designed us to be. So very integrated, very relational, seeing the connections between everything, but trying to harness that so that we are not just doing whatever comes flying at our head every day, but that we're really intentional with our time. So I love Psalm 90:12. So teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. And when your
Mm.
days are just going by, you just feel like you're just doing whatever comes flying at you. You're putting out fires all day. That's not moving and stepping with a heart of wisdom. We don't know how much time we have here. We don't know when the Lord is going to call our name. And so to me, it's not when you really understand the whole canon of scripture, we are to be responsible for what he's given us, which is our time and our resources here on earth. And I think that that should scare us a little bit and make us want to do better. So I always say, when you know better, you do better. And so
Hmm.
understanding that this whole chaotic swamp that we operate in and all of the distractions of social media and these busy lifestyles, they're pulling us away from what our focus should be. So I really love helping women. A lot of times it's women with ADHD or autism, mom brain, perimenopause brain, helping them find a system that doesn't require keeping little 15-minute time diaries all day to like figure
Yeah.
out where your time went. I don't know about you, but that has never worked for me. That 12 times in my life I've tried it. I've been 1 hour in and I'm like, oh, I forgot to write everything down. I don't know what I just did. It just doesn't work for me. So my systems are for the people that corporate America systems just don't work for. For the women who's like, I just am bad at time. I'm not good with time management. I just am terrible at that. Um, a lot of my stuff is business systems too, but essentially your business systems boil down to how you spend your time.
So I love the spaghetti waffle analogy and also the putting out fires. Folks with loved ones who have addiction often
Mhm.
feel like it is crisis after crisis, and that's all they're doing. And then when they get a minute to sit down, they are just totally relieved. Also, the spaghetti brain is a great analogy because when you're loving someone who is struggling with addiction, that is always churning and the brain is always moving like that. And it's part of what your superpower is in managing everything else that's going on because life
Yes.
continues. Even when there's a crisis, children still need to be fed, mortgages need to get paid, dogs need to be walked, all those types of things. Can you share with us some simple ways to look at your spaghetti brain as a superpower rather than something you want to run from screaming?
Yes, because it can overwhelm us for sure. And I think that there's a delicate balance between throwing our hands in the air and just saying, this is just how I am, and everything just feels messy and chaotic, and trying, that's on one side of the pendulum, and then it swings the other way, and then it's trying to force ourselves into these like corporate America time system schedules, rigidity that it was really designed for people who work in high rises, and it is designed for waffle brains, which is why it doesn't work for us. We want to be in that center area. And I'm really a practical tactical teacher. And so one of the ways that we can do that is simply by having an ordered list. So with my system for business owners, I teach a theme day system. So Monday is admin day, Tuesday is meeting day or content creation day, Wednesday is growth day, which is all things sales and marketing. Thursday is deep work day, work on one major big project. Friday is CEO day, where you're doing a lot of strategy and deep thinking about the business. Of course, you do other things, but that first hour of the day, you're working through a list intentionally. And so, to the woman who is in a marriage where there is feels like a lot of chaos, where it feels like she's thinking about a million things all of the time. The enemy is that, of course, the nature of a crisis is something that needs to be dealt with. But then the enemy of that is having no plan for when she's able to sit down, for when she's able to take a breath, for when she's waiting at soccer practice for the practice to end. There's no plan for she got to school 30 minutes early and she's waiting in the car. So that time usually gets frittered away on TikTok or scrolling reels on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
these spaghetti brains do very well. You can literally just come up in the notes app on your phone. You can come up with an ordered list of on Monday, here's three things I just would love to do if I'm able to breathe. On Tuesday, that's going to be my day, let's say, where you're just doing all the shopping, the Amazon order, the cupcakes for the bake sale, the Walmart order gets placed. So you can sort of develop these little things where I wouldn't do an ordered list of 37 things because the spaghetti brain sees that and just immediately gets overwhelmed and says it's just easier to scroll TikTok. Like, I just don't want to deal with this. But just a simple ordered list, especially if you can theme it, you can just pick a theme for each day. Then if you don't have the time, guess what? It's going to be okay because you're doing it every week. So if you
Deep
miss a
breath.
week, yes,
Yeah.
if you miss a week, you're going to be okay. The other part of my system, so my whole system is really based on the book of Ecclesiastes. There's so much wisdom in that book. And part of it is that it's good to eat and drink and be merry. We're not supposed to
Mm.
be these ants slaving away all the time. We are supposed to be thankful to God for the good gifts he gives us, and it doesn't matter what situation someone finds themselves in. We all have good things in our life. The book of James, chapter 1, talks about every good gift is from above, coming down from the Father of heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. He chose to give us the word. So we can be just thankful for the word, for Jesus. We can be thankful that we've got two legs that are carrying us around. We can always have that attitude of just being thankful for the things he's given us. But in the system, the parts I didn't touch on yet is Saturday is savor, SAVOR. I always say, what are we scrambling and striving so hard for if not to step back and enjoy it?
Yes.
So, to the busy mama, even if it's just 2 hours, can you take the kids to the park and just enjoy them? Leave the phone in the
Mm.
car and just breathe and enjoy them. Could you schedule a coffee date with your mom or your sister or a friend? It's just about slowing down and savoring, being able to be very relational. I don't know if people like the Enneagram 8 or Enneagram or hate it, but I'm an Enneagram 7. So I just love having fun. So Keith and I, a lot of times we try to go to a new restaurant or do something we've never done before on a Saturday. A lot of times we have my parents over for dinner. And then Sunday is Sabbath.
Mm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
already know that people are like, I can't, she doesn't understand how busy I am. I could never step away. So just before you jump to conclusions, it can literally just be 2 hours. You say, when I get home from church, I'm going to feed the fam, but I'm going to have 2 hours. I'm going to have two
Mm-hmm.
hours, even if I have to put a movie on for the kids, or I'm going to have 2 hours, even if I need to drive myself to the local coffee shop. But doing nothing, that's not the time to make your grocery list, food prep for the week. Ugh. No, Sabbath is resting, mind,
Mm.
body, soul, and spirit. And so God didn't have to rest, but he rested. It's one of the 10 commandments. It's the only commandment we all break every single week and think nothing of it. We wouldn't murder, we wouldn't have an affair, but we break the commandment. And while we are living under New Testament law, the Sabbath is no longer like a requirement. It's a gift. And
Yeah.
honestly, Tanya, this would be like I at Christmas sent you this little Tiffany box, the little turquoise box with a white bow, and you go,
Yes.
I'm not going to open it. I don't want it. Okay. I mean, that makes me sad because you might really, really love it. And so I'm sure your listeners have been through this where they're in a crisis. They might be at a hospital, they might be in some kind of intervention center. And have you ever looked out the window and you just see the whole world carrying on? Like,
Mm-hmm.
like your
Mm-hmm.
whole world is not falling
Mm-hmm.
apart and they're just going on with their day. The Sabbath humbles us in the best way possible because
Mm-hmm.
we realize even when we stop, everything is still okay. We're not doing as much in our own power as we think that we are. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I first learned about the Sabbath, I just want to encourage people because I know it's like, oh, well, it's easy for you to say. But when I first started it, I was in I went back to school at the age of 39 to get my biblical studies degree from Moody Bible Institute. We got to pick a topic in one of my classes. So I picked Sabbath because I just thought it was interesting. I didn't have any intention of
Nice.
ever practicing it. I just wanted to understand it. And at that time, I was working this job that was, I mean, it was easily, most weeks it was 50 hours. Sometimes it was 75 hours a week outside the home. Four kids. My husband traveled Monday through Thursday. So Monday through
Mm,
Thursday, I was doing all the driving. I had daughters in competitive dance. My son was in karate. Every night of the week, I was, I mean, it was absolutely overwhelming. And then you add to that, I was in school at 18 credit hours. So I was in school
oh my
full
goodness.
time, working like that, four kids, and a husband who wasn't around a lot to help, not by his own, like it was just he was traveling. And that's when I really thought I'm going to just do 1 hour because in full transparency, I hated Sundays. And I know as a Christian, that's bad to say, but I really didn't like Sundays. You want to talk not just Sunday scaries, it was my day to do laundry and to vacuum and clean the bathrooms.
Yes.
And remember, I would just shoot daggers out of my eyes at my family, like, oh, must be nice. He's watching football. Oh, must be nice. They're playing their video games. And here I am, just like a lot of victimhood, a lot of being the martyr.
Yes.
Nobody asked me
Yes.
to do that. And so I thought, you know what? I'm just going to start with an hour. And then it was 2 hours. And then it was 4 hours. And you know what? Oh my gosh, I can't even say this without crying. You know what my kids started to call Sunday?
Mm.
Fun Mommy Day.
Oh. Oh.
I just became a happier, kinder, more at peace, more joyful human being. And it's not about rules. Well, do you do this? Do you do that? It's not about that. It's just about resting. Whether
Mm.
you can do a couple hours, but it will spill into the rest of your week in the absolute best way possible. And so that's the full system. And so, how's that for practical? You ask for how we can
That is
untangle these spaghetti
super
weeds.
practical. And I was going to ask you about the self-care component. When Fun Mommy Day started being the term around the house, how were you and God connecting?
One of the things I've noticed about myself is that the red flag to me with myself is when I stop being a flirtatious wife.
Okay.
And so when I just become very task oriented and kind of griping and complaining, and if even if I'm not complaining, being very quiet, like, oh, I don't want to
Hmm.
say anything because it might come out negative. So I'm just gonna be quiet, but then I'm a talker. So then it's like, well, that's a big red flag of my, but I just became so I had so much more joy. Just a lot more willing to let my guard down and be fun and relaxed again. And just the whole home got better. I started looking forward to Sundays.
Hmm.
It's now my favorite day of the week. I always like, I can't wait for Sunday. And I found that that's my favorite day when I read my Bible
Hmm.
because I'm not rushing. I could literally lay on my belly on the floor for 3 hours and just sip my cup of tea and it's really hard to explain because I know it sounds kind of like very woo. And I'm very, in my work, I'm very type A. I'm very
Hmm.
like, check off a list, get this done. And so I remember thinking to myself, how are the beginning to have clean clothes? Like I do 7 loads of laundry on Sunday. I remember what stopped me was the whole list of why this won't work. And that's why I just
Mm.
started with a little bit, but everything improved. Truthfully, my relationship with the Lord improved, my relationship with my husband, my relationship with my kids. I'm not perfect. I have a lot of time. I mean, not a lot of times, but I would say once every few months, I will find myself working on a Sunday for my business. And I
Right.
hate how it makes me feel. And it's not even guilt. I go into Monday exhausted
Mm.
versus, you know, the Jewish people have this really beautiful way of talking about Sabbath, where if you're a mom with kids at home, especially, it does not just happen. Like you got to start prepping. So on Thursday, it's like, what's going to go in the slow cooker? Or are we going to pick up pizza after church? Like, how am I feeding them? On Friday, I'm like, okay, I got to get the laundry done between the next couple of days. Like you're planning ahead. So the
Hmm.
Jewish people have this really beautiful way of you spend about 3 days prepping for it. And that doesn't mean full days, obviously. It just means a few minutes. You're
Right.
just being intentional. But then you have the Sabbath, and then you spend 3 days afterward basking in the afterglow of how that made you feel. It's just the most beautiful rhythm to your week. And I will tell you, On the weeks when I don't and I break, like I'm not saying break the Sabbath, breaking my own rules. So as a workaholic, I made a lot of bad choices in my,
Hmm.
I would say like in my quote unquote past life. I have some hard and fast rules for myself that nobody put there but me. I have fence posts for myself now because if I don't, I'll just be a workaholic again. It's kind of like an alcoholic. You have to have your list of I can't do this because it leads to a bad decision every time I do it. And so one of those is I really try not to work on Sundays. I need to have those fence posts in place to keep me in check. And I go into Monday raring to go. It is like
Mm.
the amount of energy and focus that I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I really, it defies explanation. And so having that day, quote unquote, off is you're doubly productive, not just for one day. I just think it's the way the Lord works. Right? Like he doesn't just fill our cup runneth over. And so I feel like he doesn't just give you extra energy on Monday to quote unquote catch up because you were like a bad lazy girl. It's I'm gonna triple bless you. You're gonna feel so good. And then you're kind of coming off of that peak and looking forward to the next one. And I just think that's a really beautiful way that they view it.
It's awesome. And there is scientific research to prove it, that those rest days empower the rest of the week. That makes that um, something that you can think. It is, as you said in outlining your week for business, that Friday is the big thought day. If you don't have the big thoughts, if you don't have the preparation for that, the movement forward isn't there. And that's where I find the women that I work with get stuck in the minutia. They can only think one next step,
Hmm.
whereas that rest day gives you the opportunity to go, I don't need to think about anything. I don't need to do anything. I'm just going to rest in the Lord. And that's one of the books on messy Christianity was talking about take a nap with Jesus. And the God never sleeps. He's got this. There's a plan already in place. And we are at a point where we have filled our lives so much that we cannot hear anymore. And as you said, I have been there myself. I'm sure many of our listeners have been. Why am I the only one up working when everybody else is resting in the family? And who made that? We did. We did it to ourselves. So, as you invite women to rest, Scary Sunday can also be if I slow down, then I grieve, or I hurt, or I
Hmm.
get sad. Did you experience that at all?
A lot of women who resist Sabbath rest are saying that they can't because there's so much to do. But for the vast majority, there's a fear of what happens when we're still. And that's why often I'll see women will try to start this practice and then they end up on their phone because if
Mhm.
their body's still, they need their mind to be busy. And it is really fascinating what happens. I didn't necessarily have that because I don't have addiction in my family. But I was faced with what I was doing through my workaholism and how damaging it was. And one of my mentors when I lived in Wisconsin, she was a pastor's wife, just a beautiful woman. Her name was Dawn. And she said, you know, when you think those thoughts, those dark thoughts, those grieving thoughts, when you think these thoughts, tell them to God. He has great big shoulders and he already knows. So I found myself doing a lot of praying and not any kind of fancy prayers, but just like, help me to be still. God, why do I feel like this? God, what is going on? Help me. Like, it was just literally the most, if you picture how a 5-year-old talks to God, that's really what that was. Um, it does, I think a lot of people won't do it because of the fear of what happens when they're alone with their thoughts. And I
Mhm.
mean truly alone. We're all alone with our thoughts, right? Because our thoughts are going through our head all the time, spaghetti brains. But I mean alone and still
Mhm.
with our thoughts. There's a huge resistance that happens to that. And I would say, at least for me personally, I don't know what anyone else's experience would be, but that that experience was only for a couple of weeks. It actually felt like it really felt like a little bit like a vacation in my week. Like
Hmm.
I was at the beach somewhere with a book listening to the ocean. I remember thinking to myself, I can't believe that I would get to do this every week. Feels wrong. Workaholics are like, this feels
Right.
bad. I think I'm sinning. Like I'm not accomplishing anything. I think this might be bad, which is just so it makes me laugh. I really think that's why God had that on the seventh day. It was like, this isn't bad. I am doing this. If I,
Right.
as the creator of literally everything, am doing this, you can do this. But I would say to people, don't let that fight, like resist the resistance. That's a psychological principle, resisting the resistance. Because when you press through that, I actually, Ephesians 6:10 through 20, like our struggle is not against flesh and blood, it's against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. That's four different enemies that we are facing if you were to categorize them separately. He doesn't like, and it's not just one singular, like the enemy of our souls, demons, all of it. We're not, I think that so many beautiful things happen in our life, our relationships, our homes, when we do
Sure.
this. He doesn't want us to do it. So he keeps us in this like endless cycle of why we can't or being afraid to. And like I said, I remember when it hit me, oh my goodness, I literally could have this every week. What? It's like Christmas every week. And we just
Hmm.
have to reach out and grab it. We just have to be intentional and make it happen. But it was just a couple of weeks of some real big struggle. A lot of stuff happening up in my mind before I realized like my body and mind craved that. I was just go, 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 go all the time, just in this heightened state of stress and overwork and overwhelm. And like I said, I think that it's a little bit when people overtrain their muscles, my son is a huge, I mean, he weightlifts and everything. I didn't know you can actually tear your muscle off your bone. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know the
Oh,
human body was capable of that. Yeah, you could actually like tear your biceps off your bone. And I think that when people are like, "Oh, I got hit by burnout and I was hospitalized for a few days," that's the tearing of the muscle off the bone.
mm,
And rest is how we prevent that. And it just crushes me as a culture, and especially in Christian culture in the US. We've swapped so much biblical truth for Americanized Christianity, and we think it's the same thing. And I just sometimes put my hand over my mouth, like, God help us.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you being candid about that. That is also to share with the audience that you come through it, right? You
Mhm.
said it. You come through it, and it is the enemy saying, no, you need to keep rushing. You need to keep
Mhm.
doing this. God is not pleased with you, which I think is a huge piece of where we're not recognizing, like you said, the Americanization of our Christianity, and that if we're not performing, we're not worth anything. And that's not what God says at all. Tell us a little bit more about the work that you actually do, the women that you help. Who should be reaching out to you?
Any woman who is a business owner. I don't do a lot with people who have not even started their business. You need to have the idea of like what you're going to do, what you want to sell. But it's really women who want to have both money and time freedom. So I always picture like a teeter-totter. We can have total money freedom if we want to work like crazy and not have any days off and not be present with our families. So you on the one side you've got total money freedom, but that comes at a cost. And on the other side, total time freedom, where a lot of your listeners might be struggling with that. They don't have a business. Maybe they're not working and money is super tight. They might have more time. That's not always the most fun place to live either. So I
Mhm.
love that center of I want money and time freedom, that beautiful balance where I'm building the business of my dreams, but I don't want to sacrifice my personal life to do it. So if women want structure, strategy, and sanity, they come to me for coaching. So I don't do one-on-one ongoing coaching. I have a group program called the Success Squad. It's my favorite thing in the world I get to do. I just opened the doors only January and the fall. But then I have a lot of very targeted digital courses. So if someone heard this and they were like, I like her style, she's very
Mhm.
practical, her brain, my brain, they click together. The digital courses also can help someone for everything from how to batch your newsletter super fast to get actually tons of time back to my whole time system, which is called time mastery, which is, it's not really a time system so much as it's a business growth system using those ordered lists like what I talked about. But it's the joy of my heart. And honestly, Tanya, I would say the most fulfilling thing is a lot of times I think I'm helping them grow their business, but then I get a DM saying, "You just saved my marriage." It
Yeah.
is so humbling.
Yeah.
But because of those spaghetti brains, the way that we manage our time has so much impact on our marriage, on our children, on our faith,
Hmm.
and on our health. And so it's incredibly fulfilling to not just feel like, oh, I'm a business coach, but this is real and true ministry and kingdom advancement here on earth.
Absolutely. And the women who are running businesses or thinking about running businesses, you don't have to set aside your Christian identity to do that. In
Absolutely.
fact, as Kelly was talking about, the more you bring it in, the more he will do the direction, the more he will open doors. Like you said, you started this as a ministry and suddenly it became a business. Then I'm just going to make the assumption you were able to leave a 9 to 5 job and do this full time, do some different things with your family. It is possible. I've worked from home for the last 8 years. It is possible to do that. So I encourage anyone who is in a business, thinking about a business, go look at our digital courses, see what's available out there. What I have found being a business coach myself is you don't do this alone. You may come up with the idea, you and God, but then there's a next step. There's a coach. Kelly even talked about the coaching that she had. So check her out. Give us your .com where we can find your digital courses and what you would suggest somebody starts with.
Online walk like warriors. So walklikewarriors.com is the website. I offer free business coaching Monday through Friday in Instagram stories. So it's walk like warriors on Instagram, but someone had the name. So there's little underscores in between my names. You'll know you're in the right place if you see the big bright yellow background in my face on top of that. That's the profile picture. And I would recommend that people just start with the free coaching, see if they like my style. I don't want people to purchase something if they're not sure that they click with the way my brain clicks. But the best course I would say to start with is absolutely time mastery, because when we have our time right and tight, everything else can flow easily from there.
Kelly, thank you so much for being part of this. Really appreciate all the things that you've shared, especially that depth of the Sabbath and why that is so important for us. So thank you so much for being here.
Appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for tuning into the Faith Over Addiction podcast. Remember, nothing changes until something changes. Today is your day to step out in faith and make a difference. You are a daughter of the King, a woman who can spark incredible ripple effects of hope and healing, not just in your own life, but in your family, your community, and God's kingdom. If this episode encouraged you, bless someone else by sharing it. Send it to a friend who needs a little hope, or post it on Instagram and tag me. I'd love to hear what resonated most with you. And hey, if you're ready to reclaim your God-given identity and create a safe, loving space for yourself and those you care about, let's talk. Book a quick call with me today, and I'd love to hear your story and help you take the next step. Oh, and don't forget to head over to Apple Podcasts, search for Faith Over Addiction, and leave me a review. Your feedback not only makes my day, but helps other women find this podcast and step into freedom too. You are strong, you are loved, and the joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8:10. Until next time, keep walking boldly into the life God has for you.